Why did post-Soviet privatization create oligarchs? Imagine a country where all major industries are owned by the government, and suddenly, those assets are handed over to private hands in a matter of months. That's what happened in Russia after the Soviet Union collapsed. The government wanted to switch quickly to a market economy, so they used a method called privatization. But this process was rushed and poorly supervised, leading to some surprising results. Before privatization, the Soviet system was all about state control. The government owned factories, mines, and banks, and there was little private property. When the USSR dissolved in 1991, Russia faced a huge challenge. They needed to privatize thousands of state-owned companies fast. The government introduced vouchers, small certificates that people could exchange for shares of these companies. The idea was to give ordinary citizens a stake in the new economy. But most workers didn't trust private ownership or didn't understand how to use their vouchers. They often sold them cheaply or exchanged them for everyday goods. Meanwhile, factory directors and managers, who already knew how to run these businesses, started buying back shares. They used their influence and insider knowledge to take control of the companies. Because of this, a small group of insiders ended up owning most of the biggest industries. This group became what we call oligarchs, wealthy individuals with enormous influence over the economy. Another factor was corruption. The privatization process was full of shady deals. Wealthy businessmen and former officials used their connections to buy valuable assets at prices for below their real worth. This meant they could quickly amass large fortunes. In the mid-1990s, the government also created a loans-for-share scheme. They lent shares of major companies to wealthy businessmen in exchange for cash. When the government defaulted on these loans, the businessmen kept their ownership stakes. This further strengthened their control over key industries like oil, gas, and metals. The chaos of the time made things worse. Hyperinflation, unemployment, and social upheaval left many ordinary people struggling. Meanwhile, the oligarchs grew richer and more powerful. This created a huge gap between the wealthy elite and the average citizen. From a communist point of view, this was a betrayal. Instead of spreading wealth and empowering workers, privatization turned into a way for a small group to seize control of the economy. It reversed many of the goals of socialism, replacing collective ownership with a new class of wealthy capitalists. So, the reason post-Soviet privatization created oligarchs is because the process was rushed, full of loopholes, and exploited by insiders. It transferred state assets into private hands through unfair deals and corruption, all happening during a time of economic chaos. This outcome was very different from what many hoped for, turning a planned economy into a playground for a few powerful individuals.